What?
It's fuck, boy.
You're gonna have a vampire summer tab. So as you guys can tell from the montage, the account that we're playing on did actually make some major improvements. It even motivated my IRL friend to actually start playing again and act like this whole thing actually matters, which it does not, like it really does not. But truth be told, like the whole idea of this series is basically just to get rid of all of those troglodytes in my DMs asking me for account reviews, with pretty much all of them just fucking up in the core 3 principles that I discussed in the first episode of this whole series, which again, links up there right there. Now moving away from all of those overviews and just team building discussions, there's one thing that actually triggers the is people that act like having decent rune quality is like completely unobtainable, which is pretty much the only excuse why their 1000-day-old account that is jam-packed with Net 5 still sits in Fighter 1. I would probably not focus on her whatsoever. I mean, I would probably give her like warp bust runes, but she's just complete trash. Julie is way too slow for, like, basically what you're doing is you're building units for speed teams, but you have about 20% of the rune quality to actually build speed teams, let alone hybrid teams. Like, you probably threw your best violent set on a Chassoon, and now she's just sitting there, being like a suboptimal support, being used in like Guild War defense, where she just gets outruined by people and not really doing anything for you. Lucian, way too slow. What are those stats? It's like probably a Fatal Blade, attack, attack, attack build, right? Yeah. None of those 3 runes should be plus 12. Maybe that one. Maybe that one is plus 15 worthy. That one is complete trash. What they do is they just put like decent runes that look like somewhat okay-ish at plus 0 on their units, and instead of farming and instead of constantly upgrading their units by giving them better runes, what they do is they just end up maxing suboptimal runes that are like 3 out of 10. Like, how much money did you spend on this game? Because I don't like, there are 2 choices, that there are basically 2 options for you. You've either played the game for like 1000 days, or you've spent an absurd amount of money on summons. No money spent, so how old is your account? Oh, 1,500 days. Jesus Christ. That account is like 100 days younger than my account. Yeah, it's clearly not your fault, I know. Well, newsflash, it is. Also, newsflash, try being less of a bitch. So now that I've annihilated like half of my audience in today's video, I want to talk a little bit more about what I have gotten from farming Giants B10 for 1 week. Now, just for reference, we pretty much farmed away about 1,000 crystals worth of refreshes, which in other words, that's like about 1.5 premium packs for you guys. And after I was done farming, I pretty much spent about 3 hours on stream and about another 2 hours off stream just upgrading about 200 runes to plus 3. Alright, so this is the first rune that we got. I kind of took a gamble on it. But since he doesn't, I think he has like 3, 4, 6-star runes. And let alone it's a swift rune. So for like a beginner, and it's like by far hands down his strongest rune for that slot already right there. So it just felt right for me to up. Which runes do you keep that do not have a substat, a speed substat? That is a pretty good question. So when a rune doesn't have speed, there are a few situations where it's not mandatory. The most obvious one is of course when it's the primary stat, but obviously that's not the question. So it depends on your account. So I have a Leo, so in that regard, there are certain teams that I could technically build without any speed, even though the speed does impact the attack order as well. The most obvious answer is going to be for attackers that are meant to be used with like Konamiya or Rakuni or like the light Rakuni and shit like that. Like a fat Lucian. So that's like Nuclear runes. What else? Just very beefy runes with like prefixes and stuff. Like you can technically even run Violent runes or Swift runes without speed as a substat. It's just not like, if a rune doesn't have speed, the stat requirements for you to actually keep it, they get exponentially higher. So it's a weird situation to be in. A good rule of thumb is I never really keep 5-star runes without speed. I mean, on this account you might want to do it just to have like a broader box to pick from, but because like at the end of the day you can't even complete rune sets sometimes, so you want to have at least 5 runes for every set, for every slot, no matter how good the quality is. Jesus Christ, you got a triple roll right there. Did it work? Yes. Was it worth it? I'm this 24-year-old guy just sitting in my room staring at my phone for the last 5 hours. But with all of that said, let's just take a look at the results, alright? So truth be told, I really did not feel like screenshotting like the entire room box of my friend's account. But with that said, there are some benchmarks that I did talk about in the first episode. And I just figured might as well just look at those first, because I feel like that's a really interesting way of comparing. Now, those were the stats of his core monsters, and normally, like, it's really hard to find actual upgrades for your core monsters. They usually are your best ruined ones. At least that is what I would normally have set with a regular account. But since this account kind of fucked up rune-wise, we actually even managed to improve his core units by like quite a lot. Pretty much the only unit that I didn't improve was Fran. Now, I kind of already expected that since she is currently on Violent Will, and since we're mostly farming just giants pretty much. Obviously, it's going to be very hard for us to get actual improvements, but actually his Fran was already on pretty good runes. Like if you look at this rune, for instance, it has plus 19 speed. I think that was the event rune, so all in all, he got extremely lucky just for the fact that he was basically somewhat just speed chasing, which you really do not want to do for those event runes. You kind of want to go for maximum efficiency. But going from there, you will see that his Vertiha, first of all, got about, I think, 13 more speed, and on top of that, a little bit more HP. Now, the main thing with his Vertiha for now is going to be that most of his runes are actually not maxed. Like this rune, for instance, it could still get him about 3000 additional HP and things like that. Beforehand, his Vertiha was an attack percentage, which practically made no sense. It's like a fast attack percentage Vertiha that is kind of just not useful for anything. Like you want to have it tanky for PvP and have it slow and high damage for PvE, and that way it was just the worst for both situations. Now going from that, I do want to take a look at his Lauren as well. Now his Lauren, I think we improved it by about 15 speed. We pretty much kept the same accuracy. We lowered her attack and got a lot more HP. You guys kind of see a theme on this one. Like I tend to have my units pretty tanky for RTA. Like it's not all about just getting as much damage as possible, especially for those 3 units. Like they tend to have pretty low base stats, and you kind of want them to survive at least the first couple of turns, since they're only gonna get stronger. Since like the main reason, like I already discussed in my last episode, why you want to bring those is gonna be like turn cycling, which is going to get stronger and stronger the more turns you actually get. Now his fastest speed buffer beforehand was actually his Orion, but even with that slightly better base speed, we still managed to get his burnout about 20 speed faster. Now all of his runes are actually ungrinded from what I can tell, so we can get that burnout probably up to 170. One roll that we got on stream and that we just upgraded was this one, and we actually got a quad roll into speed. Now obviously those rolls were pretty low, but all in all, I'm pretty satisfied with what we got on this one. It's going to be pretty amazing for his Aegir. Now if there's one issue that we're going to have with this account so far, it's just going to be that his skill ups are just all over the place. Now the next unit that we improved pretty drastically was his Juno. Now the main issue with the Juno is going to be that you kind of are reliant on getting that 2-set bonus as well. Now what you normally want to go for on a Juno is either the Revenge offset or Nemesis. It's either one of those two. I've seen also some people run Shield, but it really depends on which sort of team combo you're going for. Now I already showcased her runes and I didn't really swap them around too much, but pretty much going for Giants, since he does have a lot of units that strive off of Despair, like a Juno, like also an Ethna, which currently she's actually on Swift Blade. Now the main reason for that is because like an Ethna is actually really hard to ruin if you want to go for a Despair build on her, but her base speed kind of makes me want to go for a Swift set. But the main issue with that is, since we are going to run Vertiha and also Lauren as our main setup units, I kind of feel like I want to go for a Despair Ethna, just to actually make her go after those two instead of before them. Kind of want to have the Lauren strip armor break and then have Ethna use her 3rd skill. I think that's a lot better. It's already max skilled, that Ethna, so we are gonna actually focus on her pretty heavily really soon. Now the last issue that we are having is gonna be the fact that he really only has Fran as his main immunity unit, and going from there, I mean, he did build a Triana, but like I said in my last episode, the main issue with his Triana was, first of all, it's kind of not scaled up whatsoever, and she does require a lot of skill ups, and he really doesn't feel like fusing any of them. So 6-starring a Triana this early was pretty bad of a move in my opinion. What he could have gone for instead was Lulu. Now I know Lulu has worse base stats, but all in all, I feel like a Swift Lulu that is fully skilled is much better than like a halfway ruined Triana that really has also pretty high stat requirements if you think about it. Now those are pretty much all of the improvements that we made on his account so far. There are several more that we can do in the near future. The main reason why I'm not really re-ruining his entire account right now is just the fact that removing runes is actually quite expensive. Like we're spending up to like 300,000 mana on it. But with that said, I still felt like showcasing how big of an impact farming like even just 5-6 days of giants can make on your account. Like you guys saw it in his core units already, and also in a couple of niche picks that are discussed in today's video. And I think that's again going to be pretty much everything for today's episode. Now we pretty much discussed the general rules of improving your account. After that, we discussed core teams and how you build other units around those and how to set up rune builds. In today's episode, we went for a little bit of rune discussion, showcasing the big improvements that I've made just from farming Giants B10 on and off about 5 hours a day-ish. The team that I utilized in the last week was basically just like a semi-speed team. Again, like he just fucked up his entire account really hard. And while his bugs would suggest that he could be building a speed team, his rune quality is just all over the place. His Lucian is pretty bad. And in general, it was just not consistent enough for the units that he had on his account. Like some of them were just not built. Like it's kind of necessary if you want to have an Arang in your Giants team, which kind of ups your success rate to 100% already right there. But you do have to have skill ups on her, and he really didn't. So maybe fusing skill ups instead of like building random trash tier at 5s would have been the correct choice on that one. The last thing that I want to give you guys a heads up on is going to be that we finally finished secondary awakening his Raok. Now I know, like I said in my last episode, it's kind of a niche pick, but since it already had a bunch of XP points on it, I just decided to max it. Kind of was also just meant to give us some additional time to actually build Hysterian, to start farming the ancient runes from there on. Like we're mostly going to farm the beast ancient runes and go from there. I know it's suboptimal, but especially if we're going for like first turn cleaves, having those really strong blade runes, I think is going to make a pretty huge impact. And yeah, I think that's pretty much going to be it for today's episode. You guys kind of can already get an idea of how well this account is actually improving over the last couple of days even. Like we actually made pretty huge steps towards our main goal, which is going to be reaching Fighter 1 by the end of this season. Now I'm going to be gone for the next couple of days over holiday. Just as a quick heads up, I am currently improving my PC setup, so my stream is actually going to improve by quite a bit. So do expect that January is going to be a month where I will be streaming quite a lot more. So if you haven't followed me, make sure to follow me on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/realsampletext. I think I'm just going to try and like finish all of his teams and let's do RTA on stream, actually have some fun, collect some footage together. So yeah, as always, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and until then, see you guys in my next episode. Bye!